Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.
Soundcast was brought to you by
SoundVaaibs.
Soundcast.
What?
Why did I say Soundcast?
I don't know.
It's all this band practice at Soundcast Studios.
Yeah.
They're a great studio. If you're a band in Cape Town and you want to go and practice your shit, go to Soundcast. They'll look after you.
Where are they actually?
Woodstock.
Oh.
Yeah, very very nice
Why
place.
have I not heard of them?
I don't know, because you've been living under a rock.
That's true, but I am from Somerset West.
Yeah. Well, welcome back,
Oh.
and welcome back to you, the audience,
Hey,
to SoundVaaibs.
Hey.
It's the Nate.
Hey.
It's the Pat. What do you just introduce yourself?
No, man, it's less fun that way.
Fair enough. Hope you guys have been enjoying this series of episodes on band relationships and dynamics. And today I'm looking through my notes here that don't exist.
Basically, you're stubbed.
We're taking the position of band dad, which we have thoroughly discussed over the last few weeks, and we are now discussing the other end of the stick, which is being just, I suppose, just a pleb.
Yeah. Hey, that's swag.
I'm joking. Being someone in the band that doesn't have that leadership role attached to them, where they are pretty much just an integral part of the machine, but not the, I don't know, what would you call the leader?
Well, I think let's maybe rephrase it. Like we've chatted a few episodes where we've gravitated towards the assumption that we ourselves, as Nate and Paddy McD, are band dad or at least have in some capacities fulfilled the role of band dad. And we've also assumed that the listeners might relate. But it might be that you, the listener, or one of us in some shape or context, we've been a more, let's call it, passive player.
Passive player?
Yeah.
So,
like, I mean, when we say leadership, we may be talking about, like, we've been using the word band dad, which we associate with leadership of, let's call it, an emotional level, and also band activity level. Guiding the ship through the channel, so to speak.
It'd be really cool.
But we've made that assumption that maybe everyone who's listening is in that position, but maybe you're just a more passive person in the band, but you still feel you need to, or you could make a difference.
Well, hang on. What I was thinking that would be really cool is, what if we got like a band mom?
Okay.
That I think maybe we should just. I know this is completely off topic, but we should just get a band mom in here, and like get a different perspective, because maybe band dad and band mom have like two different ways of dealing with things.
So, in the years I've been doing this, band mom has almost always been someone's actual mom who like makes sandwiches and
No, but I mean, if there's a leader in the group and it just happens to be a female and she's like sort of captain of the ship, then there we go. That's it. Captain of the ship and the commanders of the deck. The commanders of the deck would be people with the instruments in their hands, and their focus is maybe writing music or doing stage theatrics or whatever the case is, whereas the dad or the mom would be the guy or the girl who basically does all the admin sort of side of things, also the direction, maybe the summary of the creative direction, if you will. Just we should maybe elaborate a little bit more on
roles.
On the roles. Yeah.
All right. Maybe, because look, I've found that in the various bands I've played for, and to an extent still play for, there are a lot of roles that are played by other members, and I'm not band dad everywhere I go. I mean, I've been playing for someone for 10 years, which I don't do anymore, but I played with a band for 10 years where I was a completely passive member.
Okay.
Completely and utterly passive. And it was a nice experience to have because you can only fill so much capacity in your own head. So when you're trying to hold one band's interests high and you're putting in a lot of your self-energy to making sure that everything's ticking the way it should, in your mind at least, and sometimes that's a lot of work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in the other band, I was able to take a much more, and I use the word passive, but because I literally did nothing. I would come and play my parts and just defer to the authority of the band dad of that band. Or should I say, in that band, because there was a guy and a girl who actually married, husband and wife, like band dad and mom.
So the band was kind of like their child.
Yes. And I was lumped in with the child factor.
So you were a child. So the passive members are now children.
No.
This is not working.
But yeah. In a band relationship, some of those dynamics are that you have your leadership or command figures, and you have your passive figures who are not freeloading. They're fulfilling their role, but their role is passive.
Yeah.
And maybe it's designed and desired to be that way.
Okay.
But I think in another completely opposite context, I really value the long-term band, which was my first one, or first serious one, and continues to persist today, where we've identified that each person in that team has strengths and weaknesses.
Absolutely.
And over the years, right in the beginning, we all used to just, we used to call it fokvoort and sape baie.
That sounds like a joy. I do not want to be a part of that.
Well, we all performed equal roles in those days. But with time, you start to understand each other, and each person starts assuming more of a role to which they're naturally suited. And I think one of the strengths of that band, why it persisted so long, and why we had very few membership changes, is that we were actually really blessed, if you think about it. But we reasonably quickly established whose strengths were what, and what roles could be assigned to each band member. And in those early days, at least, before adult life kind of killed everything.
Damn it.
Yeah. It's like we were all pretty equally committed and invested, and each guy brought his skills and strengths to the table, and we made a very powerful team. Because among the 5 members of the band, someone was good at pretty much every function that we needed to perform as a band. We had the guys who were design savvy, we had the guys who were sales savvy.
Okay, hold up. Wait just a minute. So, with that being said, you had other members that weren't necessarily leadership role, but they had other roles and other contributions that were not just rock up to the jam room and play their part.
Yeah. No. They had roles and functions.
All right, now the communication from their part, say for example you're in that situation in another project. Now I'm not talking about your long-standing one where you've been leader, but I'm talking now about a project that you've been in where you've been given a role. Have you been given a role that isn't just, right, I'm going to arrive at the jam room and I'm going to play my part?
No.
Not?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not really.
So, okay, taking that away from the conversation then.
I've only been one or the other of the extremes.
So
I've been band dad, or I've been entirely passive.
Now, I want to know from a perspective now, because we don't have another reference point. So we'll take your reference point, for example. You are the passive player. What communications were you able to get across to band dad of that project that allowed you? Like, did you have a voice?
Yeah. All right. So this is actually a difficult topic for me personally, because I say that I've only ever been one of the two extremes, but that's actually a lie.
Okay.
Because I'm currently active in a project where, frankly, I haven't figured out which end of that spectrum I belong in yet.
So you're sort of stuck in the middle.
Yeah. But now the problem is, I happen to be, like I mentioned sometime in a previous episode, that I am a bit of a tyrant. Let's face it, I'm a control freak.
Yeah.
So I have a bit of a problem where I'm either passive or I'm active. So where I'm expected to be active, I take almost complete charge, and I start to drive a very hard regime. And that can, for some people, become unpleasant, uncomfortable, undesirable.
Yes.
So in my current project, which is not Mind Assault, I'm still trying to establish where, what is the threshold of tolerance of my bandmates for me to be one or the other? Because if I'm assigned a role, I'm going to take ownership of that role, and I'm going to push hard. And yeah, it's
that's the leader in you coming out.
Yes, which is perhaps unfortunate in some scenarios and has been proven in the past as well. It's like, there's another band I was in, which is kind of ancient history now, but it was a lot of great fun until the communication that reached my ears was that the guys wanted to take it up a notch.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, okay, well then this is what we got to do. Boof, 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 boof. And it became so unpleasant so fast that I think they just were, okay, this is not fun at all anymore. And for me it was kind of upsetting, because I was like, but I thought you guys wanted to.
Yeah, that comes down to old buddy of mine used to call it hip-hop talk. Where it's like, yeah, man, we'll totally collab, we'll do this, we'll do that, it's going to be so much fun. And then when it actually came down to it, it's like, it just never...
hard work.
It's hard work, or it just never materialized, you know?
Yeah. So talking about roles again, look, it's not to say that you have to be one or the other. That's just my personality type. If you're going to set me to a task, I'm really going to just get stuck in there. And I'm going to naturally become a tyrant.
Yes.
So I apologize. But for a lot of people, it's there is middle ground.
Yes.
And, it can be very successful.
Yeah.
And I saw that in my long-standing project, we were able to find the middle ground of most of the people, and, find the strengths of the individual and let them take command of that area, and, hopefully, if they're really keen on the band, they will take ownership of that responsibility and run with it.
Yeah.
Like in the Mind Assault context, we've got Donovan, who's like salesman extraordinaire, and he just understands the business of sales. Yeah. So he handles our merch. So that includes things like stock and sourcing suppliers and, running the books and all that kind of stuff. Just pretty much everything to do with sales. That's his burden to bear.
Right. Now, when he communicates, for example, from his role, and you being band dad, I would assume, of Mind Assault. Yeah. So he would then communicate to you, and you would obviously respond accordingly. But when he approaches you, does he approach you with in his mind that,
authoritative or deference?
Exactly.
No, he speaks with authority. Doesn't mean I always agree with him, but in that context, we will always speak frankly with each other. And he will value my opinion as I will value his. But it doesn't mean that I'm the full authority of the band. Not at all. I think that's the difference. It's bad dad, not band government.
Band government.
When I think of band dad, I often think more in terms of the glue that holds it together. Doesn't mean it, it's more an emotional thing. Yeah. And, leadership as a morale thing. It's about trying to be attuned to what is the experience of each person as a member of this band. Is it positive or negative? There are bands out there who function quite successfully with a band government.
I've seen that in the past.
and where all members defer to the authority of one.
I think you and I already have the band in mind for that.
Yeah, well, one of many.
Yeah.
One of many.
Yeah.
And like I think that's fine, because that also shows itself to be effective.
It's another method of going about the band dynamic.
Yeah. And it's like, but again, is that what everyone signed up for? And in many cases, that's exactly what they signed up for.
Yeah, because it's easier.
Yeah. So all the burden falls on the shoulders of one person, but then they also carry the full authority of pretty much everything.
Direction, what happens when, so on and so forth.
Which sometimes I think would be a wonderful situation to be in. But by the same token, it's like, I don't know if that's for me.
I don't think any just person can pick those reins up, because those reins are heavy.
Yeah.
They're very, very heavy to hold. So it's, I would assume that you would be only part of one project. You'd probably have a career thing going on, but your priorities would be, right, I've got this and I've got this running parallel to it. I have full control of both of these aspects. The music project that I have full control over, this and this and this and this needs to happen.
Yeah.
Now, what's funny though is I've seen quote unquote band government.
Yeah.
And I've seen that government suffer.
Yeah.
Because the individual holding those heavy reins, it's been too heavy, and now he wants to take a rest. He puts the reins down. Now the operation's dead.
Yeah.
It's dead. It's not moving.
Yeah. Like that person doesn't have the same support structure.
Exactly.
That band dad might have. I mean, like, I will admit, in my own context, there's been times where I've been fatigued and wearied, and I'm just like, actually right now, I can't. Like, I'm just hollowed out. And then someone else would say, all right, Pat, you chill a bit. We'll take care of this and that and the other. And they might not push it to the same extent that I would have been pushing it while I was at my best. But the fact of the matter is, the thing didn't fall apart.
Yeah.
Just because I needed a bit of rest time.
See, that's what makes it more appealing to me. Like the dad over the government, you know. But I'm still looking...
Because ultimately, we are all emotional beings.
Exactly.
And, we talk about relationships and the dynamics. It's like, we also need support.
Yes.
When times get tough.
Absolutely.
And if you've been kindly and sensitive to the needs of the people you are engaged with, then if they're decent people, they will treat you the same way when you find yourself in need. I'm
still looking for a term that can be used, because I know we've now established these fun little play words that we've, band government, band dad. What is the term for someone who is neither of those things but is still part of it? Like, I would assume there'd be two different ones. There'd be one with responsibilities much more than just arriving and playing.
Active and passive.
So
you have your active members and you have your passive members, but it doesn't mean that an individual can't change status.
No, absolutely.
From time to time.
Yeah.
And I've seen passive players switch to active and vice versa. And I think that's actually great. I mean, I won't go into too much detail, but like, I've had a member of Mind Assault who missed what, in my opinion, was one of our most amazing gigs to play. And I feel that we were at not our best strength at that show because of his absence. And to this day, I mean, it was years ago, but like to this day, I'm like, if he was there, it would have just been that next level experience. But he was going through a stage of life where passive was the only option for him in the band context. And we had to get a session in because that show, he just wasn't in a great state of mind to accompany us on that trip.
And how did
it was his choice.
How did you approach that conversation?
Well, he brought it to me.
All right.
And he was just like, I don't see that I can do this. I'm not fit for travel. I'm not fit to actually go through this situation. But I do have a guy who I believe will be able to pull it off, and his recommendation was solid. But we're talking about a chapter of maybe 2 or 3 years where a guy had to switch from active to passive. But that passed. then he switched to active again.
That's cool.
Where he gets his hands on. So the way I see it, it's like band is about you're either active or passive, and that is a thing that can be switched back and forth. If everyone is passive, the band is doomed.
All right.
But if one person is active, it usually means you've got a band dad or a government. But if all 5 or however many members are there are all active, then you've got a powerhouse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think having if you have a 4 or 5 piece band and all of them are actives, then you got something there.
And I mean, we've got to kind of wind down this whole season of or like a series of this topic at some point. And I think if like if I can conclude with anything, I would say that don't just think of your band as all business. Understand that you have a diverse group of people who all have emotional needs.
Yes.
And they're all going through any sorts of trouble at any time, and it's constantly shifting and changing. Your choice, your role, regardless whether it's active or passive, I guess you just got to understand that you are one of these unpredictable human animals who's subject to whatever's going to come next in your life.
Yes.
Regardless of the band or home or work or whatever. And you have to ask yourself, do I need to switch to a passive role if you're currently active, or vice versa? Maybe passive means you need to leave even. To make room for someone who's going to be active, if that's what the band needs.
Yeah, but that requires that person to then look at the band and respect the band's trajectory.
And I think a lot of people often don't know where they sit in this frame of things. Sometimes they don't even think about it, and that's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, for band dad, it's frustrating. I can
yeah.
totally relate to that.
But I think as an individual who's part of a band and cares about the whole thing, this is an important thing to just sit and spend some time of introspection over.
Absolutely.
Like, especially if you're finding things are a bit tough, a bit rough in your life at the moment, or in a member of your band is going through something difficult. It's like, how can you be there to support them emotionally, regardless of what decision needs to be taken? Because also, let's face it, like, asking someone to leave, frankly, I've never been in that position before. There's been times where I've felt that's the only avenue available, but we've actually found that time passed,
Okay.
But there's times where someone did leave voluntarily, and it's like, maybe there was a sigh of relief, or maybe there was a surge of shock and fear.
You've done that before.
Maybe a bit of both. in the same breath.
Absolutely. But you've done that before, where you've actually assessed the situation and you voluntarily decided, right, it's my time.
I have, yeah. It was difficult.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very difficult, because you develop an emotional bond with the people you're involved with.
Yes.
Look, in some cases, I've seen situations out there with other bands where Oaks leave because they're like, fuck those guys.
Yeah, but we all know how that goes.
Yeah. And I think that's something where the relationships weren't taken proper care of.
Absolutely.
Maybe it was too much all business, or maybe there was just a mismatch of personality types.
That's definitely a possibility. I've been in cases where the personalities just didn't gel and it just got ugly. And,
Or visiting the beginning of this whole discussion, like where expectations weren't realistically aligned.
Yeah.
And then...
Or realistically set, for that matter.
Yeah. And then the personalities started to clash,
Almost immediately.
Yeah.
And you don't want to admit it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, look, I think we've covered quite a bit. I think we may revisit this sometime in future.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I guess that depends on the feedback from the public, because I mean, like, I'm not sure if we've really come up with anything conclusive out of this chat. No. But is there something conclusive? Or maybe it just helps to hear what is being spoken about.
I think so. I think from what I've gathered over the last few episodes, and I think we've been winging this.
Yeah.
This whole topic is something that we just have been quite passionate about, and we've just wanted to talk openly, like an open forum. But I will end with this. This is definitely something that I would like to hear feedback about personally. And guys, please give us your damn feedback.
Hell yeah.
Do it. We want to hear. We want to know what's going on in your lives, whether it be musicians or otherwise. But anyway, with that
Also,
being
tell
said,
us if we're boring you.
yeah, please. Like, if we're boring you, then we'll change it up. We'll do something different.
Or we'll do something else with our time.
Yeah, check this out. Straight for the jugular.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, maybe you and I can spend this time jamming together.
Yeah, we'll go
sitting
start a
here
band.
sharing our experiences and wisdom.
Screw the podcast business. We'll just go start a new band.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we'll sing about all of our woes and things and whatever. Okay. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will catch you next week or the week after that. I don't know what the schedule's like or what it's going to be
And
looking
we'll
like.
actually talk about something completely else.
Completely elsed.
Yeah.
And don't forget to check out Blended Audio, Blended Podcasts, Blended Things Blended on all the places that podcasts are available. And SoundVaaibs. Check it out on the socials. SoundVaaibs.
Hey, Nate.
Give us.
Blend this.
Blend us. What? No, man. Just
Bye.
bye. Shut up. Just go. Just coffee. Give me coffee. Just give me coffee. Just want coffee. Thank you so much for listening to us ramble on about all things music and sound here on SoundVaaibs, produced with the generous assistance of Blended Podcasts, brought to you by Blended Audio.